السلام عليكم. خدای وکړي چې جوړې تازه تکړه بخیر. Hope everyone is well. خدا کنه که همتون خوب باشین، جور باشین. Just waiting for a couple of friends. Okay, Pashtana John is online. Let's bring her on. السلام علیکم خور جوړې تازه تکړه بخیر.
بخیری
څرنګه جوړې خدای دې راواله.
باندې
چیرې ته؟ Where is Shamayel? Of course you will ask only about Shamayel. You will not ask about your little brother here who's way older than you.
I was gonna ask that. How are you? But I was like, where's Shamayel? I have to do that.
Where's Shamayel? How you been?
I'm good. How are you? How's everything on your side? Long.
It's been a while. It's been a while. I know. I'm actually in my car.
Yeah.
And you can see that, of course. Sorry about that. How was your travels? Have you actually settled in well? You're feeling good? Tell us about your travels.
I actually started working again. I'm going to office. I'm continuing with my school, so that's a good thing to be happy about.
Yeah. We're twins.
We did not plan this.
Did not plan that. Salom, how's my sister?
I'm good. How are you?
Do you have any jet lag, or are you all good?
Oh no, I'm good actually. Everyone is asking me that, but I don't feel that.
Good. Well, nice.
Look at her. How beautiful she looks with that silk scarf and the beautiful jewelry.
I was going live with you guys. I had to put everything Afghan with me.
Yeah, obviously you have everything Afghan and none of us have anything Afghan, unfortunately. We're not wearing anything Afghan.
But Shamayel,
what is this?
She's wearing a shirt.
Yeah, sure. Yes,
what is this? I'm forever wearing.
True.
Yes.
I'm taking offense to that.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I just offended myself as well.
Our faces.
How's everything? All well? That's Afghan for sure. Let's hope so.
So
all good?
Have a little.
Yes.
Little request. Should I do that thing where I have to raise my hand to talk?
Yeah, I think you need to do that. Yeah, sorry.
I'm sitting in Tashkent, so I'm using like a VPN and the Wi-Fi is bad. So sometimes there's like a break in me talking. So I have to be like, okay, so please let's go ahead and skip the beginning of all of your lives.
And we were not going to do that, actually. We were not going to do that anyways. We were not going to do that. So lucky you. Yeah, this is a very, very exceptional thing that I hope to do. And it's more like a discussion between three Afghana rather than a podcast or a show or an episode. There is no specific guidelines to it and nothing like that. We're just gonna discuss. I am the illiterate, curious, wannabe artist, and you guys are the experts in your own field. So I'm just gonna try to learn as we go along, and hopefully others will learn with us. And I do have to put how do they say disclaimer out
Yeah.
that, yeah, I will try to piss a lot of people off.
Which
So
three of us?
oh, three of us. All right, beautiful. Yes, that's it. That's it.
Nice.
Because tomorrow, if I did get to piss a lot of people off tomorrow, hopefully you will not see me on this platform with the same name because I will be blocked, and that
Yeah.
would be a very proud moment for me. So apparently, even with my Khore Pashtana John, we have the same issue that we have to raise hands.
Yeah.
So, so yeah, I think we all need to do that. But anyways, it's about you two sharing with us your wisdom. It's just me, again, a curious guy from the street of Afghanistan trying to whinge. So, first off, you girls are good. Everything is well. Pashtana John, in specific, so you're in US now.
Yeah.
How do you feel?
I'm happy that I get to walk again. I'm gonna be honest. I get to the university. I go to my office. I get to work on the things that I love. So that's a relief. Of course, I had there was this one day where I kept on crying for no reason, and it was so weak that I couldn't even call back home, and I couldn't tell my mom because for her it's like sign of weakness. All of one ghairat gone to waste and everything, and she's like, "Oh, we went through so much stuff. Sit down." But I cried so much, and I was like, this is not how I wanted to come. I wanted to come as a for my master's or do something of my own, and that's it, and then get back home. And now I don't know what the prospects are of that. So that's something of course I know I'm gonna go to Afghanistan soon, but it's just those one of those things that we had in Afghanistan and now we don't in the past 2 months. So yeah, mixed feelings.
Beautiful. So what was your first impression? Have you really been able to process your first impressions of uh, United States of America, the land of the dreams, and the land of the what, the free or
The
something they
land of
say?
and breathe. Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
I could right now. He wants to laugh so badly. But passion, I was actually so this journalist who actually helped me. She was there. She was there to pick me up, and she came in and she gave me a big hug, and she was all nice. And she got me to the place, the apartment that was assigned to me, and she had made sure that I have bed covers, bed pillow, and everything. And she went on and got everything. So that was a good touch. But then at the same time, she comes from a South Asian side, so she understood what we have been through, or she wanted to make sure that I have a house that feels like a house, a home. So that felt good. Apart from that, people have been nice so far, so I can't say that no, they're not. They're pretty much nice.
Shukr, shukr, shukr.
Yeah.
Shamayel, how you feeling with your resistance scar? How you?
I'm
All
all
pumped
right.
up?
I'm all pumped up. Yeah, I'm ready to go. Nothing that dramatic going on in my life, so no jet
Are you
lag.
sure about that? Cool. Okay. No,
If
no
if
jet lag for once.
if anything, I have put Chad on my hair. That's the only exciting thing that's going on.
But Chad, but by that you mean you've actually oiled your hair. So okay, all right, fair enough. Let's get into this whole discussion of what.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Is my internet bad or is everyone's internet bad?
Why is that?
I feel like
Because it's like,
mine and your internet is fine. I think it's Lemar's internet that is a bit shaky. I feel like I can hear you properly, but I cannot hear
okay,
him.
Lamad.
Oh, well, I can see you two perfectly. I can hear you two perfectly. and there's nothing from my side. I'm not sure. But either way, I'm not going to speak a lot anyways.
No. You need to participate fully in this conversation.
Oh, I will. Oh, I will. Trust me, I will. I will.
Okay.
Of course
So
I will.
then,
Of course.
Lamar is always like, selling himself so short. He's like, "I'm bichara gak. I'm an artist gak." And
Put it.
mentioning him, everyone is going on Instagram. Is like, this guy. And I was like, what bichara gak?
I'm so happy you made a point of saying this, because every time I go live with him, I have to do this thing too. Like, you can read and write. You aren't illiterate. You are an artist. Stop doing the same fucking thing over and over again. You have probably like one more time you can say it before we're like, basta guy. I can't do it anymore.
Yeah, and like,
well, this shows how humble you two are, and our friends who actually think like that about me. But this is a good starting point for our discussion today. When I say I'm illiterate, because if people have noticed and people are actually looking at us three, Shamayel John is obviously, I don't have to say it twice, she's a phenomenal artist. Thousands and thousands and thousands of people love her and hate her for her art. It's that authentic and powerful. And
badge of honor. You know, when that's badge of honor.
100%. Love the hater. Means I'm doing something.
Exactly. Exactly. And then we have similarly our sister Pashtana John, who needs no introduction, who needs nothing to be said about, because she is in her own way a rebel, a revolutionary individual, an educator, and of course educated person. So why me here? Why am I here? I'm not educated as you guys. I'm not an artist as good as you guys. Why am I here? Right? So this begs for a good question. Why do I always say I'm an illiterate person? Is because this space, this spot isn't actually for me. Okay? I'm a guy who was just doing something in a garage in a small room, wanted to make music or try to make music, and that was his life, that was his world. You know, he was a very small individual who stutters, who was very shy, very introvert. He just wanted his own space. He wanted to live in his own space. He wanted to gather knowledge from listening to people like you, and that's about it. That's how he fed himself, with learning, but just the love of knowledge, right? And there comes a point where I started to do something about the kids and music. Okay, try to help them out. What did we go through? Hardships, blah, 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 blah. You know, I had been through that. I tried to help them with that. And then we had this point of time, August 15th. And what happened after that till today, this gives me, I take this responsibility onto myself. Why am I here? Talking to individuals as beautifully and qualified as yourself and a lot of other people that I've spoken to. Why? Because there's so many people who are not doing this. Yes, please.
Can I answer the question of why you're doing this? It's because you love your country. And I'll just take a moment for 1 second. Me and Pashtana John are just so much younger than you, just decades and decades younger than you. But technically, you were doing something revolutionary and for the country while we were still young kids. And you have to remember that. You paved the way in things that you did.
And can I add on to that, it's when Shamayel says, like, when we were even kids and you were doing stuff, right? And when you say you were in garage and just doing your own thing, I'm gonna be honest, we're always going to be illiterate in somebody's world. The three of us talking today, we're illiterates in the world of people right now ruling Afghanistan. You guys should know that. We're always going to be illiterate in that sense. But at the same time, we're always going to be educated. It's not just about reading and writing. My mom, she's a visual educator, so she gets educated through TV and she learns languages through TV, and I believe in that. So when we talk about the power of art, and somehow if you study all these artists, they don't have formal education. They just have a way of, like, educating people through their own medium. And I think that's powerful when normal people understand the power of art. So Lemar, you're not illiterate. You're very much educated. You just need the right students to follow you. So yeah.
Thank you very much, Jorge. Uh, that's just overwhelming for me. But not to actually really get how do you say get over myself, or how do you say that, right? Go over myself or something, not to oversell myself.
Yeah.
But I believe what disappoints me today is that we have so many senior Afghan men and women who are very, very extremely educated and qualified at this moment to be talking about what is happening to our people and nation today. Yeah. They could be in their 70s, they could be in their 60s. We have only seen the 20 years or the past 30 years we've heard or vaguely remember,
yeah,
upon what our age is. But those people have seen 5 different regimes going back and forth.
Yeah.
Right? And these people have worked in the government. They are educated immensely. And either they're so disappointed and traumatized that they can't even speak, or they're not being allowed to talk to or not given platform, okay? Or they're selling tarkari and vegetables in Pakistan or Iran, or selling cheese, or they're being security guards,
yeah,
or they're just nobody. Okay, now this disappoints me. Why am I here? Like who am I to be here asking you to, comparingly our new generation, educated people, well-deserved artists? Like, why did I start Rock Kabul, the podcast, talking to our young artists, right? Where we have so many artists, Afghan from the 70s, still alive, which the Afghan music is alive with them today, but they never took the initiative to do this, or nobody provided them the platform. Same goes with politics, same goes with economics, same goes with social sciences, whatever. Why not? Why do we have so many young people who just got fame for no fucking apparent reason?
yes,
No reason whatsoever. And now there's some sort of activists and politicians, and they want to spread their word, which they don't even make sense. They don't even know what they're talking about. So for me, I'm not supposed to be here. I admit this. I'm taking this responsibility on myself because they are spreading bullshit. And I'm going to name them all tonight. I'm going to name them all as much as I know, as much as I know, right? And I'm going to put forward my view as well, okay? Because I swear to God, Jorge, we are going to be 35 million beggars. We're not a nation anymore. And this breaks me. We're going to be beggars. We're going to be international, global, 35 million population of beggars. And we have people who are trying to do this, who are trying to support this, right? So let's just kickstart this from the very important thing. We're using all these children, malnourished, homeless, out in the tents, in the cold, dying, even dead bodies of children, journalists, so-called journalists, okay, social media influencers, all right, the kings of hashtags, are putting these kids, these women, and just to get attention. You don't need that. What do you have to say about this?
I want to give Shamayel the stage because I feel like he has something to say. And then I'm going to add on to it because I have a lot of things to say onto it. But I want to ask, like, Shamayel, do you want to start, Shamayel?
I think I'll try my hand at starting. So what you asked this question, why certain people aren't doing things and why certain people are doing things. I think in the past probably 40 years, everything that's happened in Afghanistan has created a kind of dog eat dog world where people are much more selfish and self-centered. Whether that came about because they lived through something and they're nervous about tomorrow or not, and they've gotten that mentality that makes them center themselves. And we've kind of lost the collectivity that we used to have. And that's, I think, exactly the reason why we should have conversations with people of all different backgrounds as Afghans, because the country is about the people. And where we've gotten wrong is when only certain people's voices were centered and not everyone's, right? So that's why I think this is a good metaphor. If we're going to take your little Bechoragak energy and apply it here, you should be in this conversation, because everyday people, whether they're artists or revolutionaries or whatever, should all be participating in helping fix the country. And everyone's voice matters. I shouldn't have a louder voice just because I sell jewelry. Like, that doesn't make sense. But I think we have become a nation of beggars. I don't think that it's something that's going to happen later. It's already happened. And when you have begging, the actual thing that you have to do when you beg is you have to ask it of someone else. So when you post photographs where you're actually taking away your own ghairat, you're posting photos of women with their rib cages showing and things like that, you're doing it because you want the attention of someone else to come and help you, right? And I think that's the fundamental little thing that's gone wrong, is when you're asking for someone else's help instead of you helping your own people. That's when the images start getting nastier and actually honestly traumatizing to look at. And it all seems to be almost like some kind of sick and twisted theater, to be honest, because you're begging for other people's attention first and foremost, and then whatever else you want, fame, yeah, whatever the fuck, you know?
See, when Shamayel says, like, when you give up on your ghairat, I personally second that, because for a reason we are, like, so okay with the fact that there is no sense of volunteerism in us anymore. We want other people to come and feed us. We want other people to come and rescue us from the miseries that we have made for ourselves. And I know a lot of people are going to attack me for this, but I'm going to say it out loud again. There were people who actually brought teenagers to parties in Kabul 5 months ago, right? I'm not saying that it's a bad thing or a good thing or whatever. You're partying, that's your personal thing, right? I'm not saying you're doing good or bad. But if you are actually taking taxpayers' money from the West that is sent for your people to help them, and you're partying with it in a guest house, that's wrong. That's wrong. And that's where people have got it wrong. They're like, oh, Afghanistan has always been a failure case. Afghanistan is always like this. But then there is, the sense of loss, the sense of lost volunteerism. They were paid to party. They were paid to party, and nobody held them accountable. And all these activists. I'm not saying everyone is bad. I have amazing people that I see all the time. I know Shabana Basij, I know Firishta Farouk, I know Firishta Kareem, and I want to take their names out loud because these are the people who actually worked in Afghanistan and made sure that they do their part. Then there are people who are claimed activists who are not, who are just like, part of the debating groups or stuff like that, and I'm gonna get attacked for this anyways. So all these people, they go on Twitter, they go on and attack one person for doing their job right. You didn't stop the person who was partying and bringing in teenagers to all these parties 5 months ago, but you're attacking a person who's actually working in a war zone right now. Why? That's the first thing. We Afghans, we always tend to get so twisted in our own politics, and it's like, I just sound like my parents or like my grandparents and all that. Every time they're like, oh, we Afghans are bad. Not all Afghans are bad. I have seen amazing Afghans. I have seen amazing people. I have seen humanity in Afghans. But it's always the people who are outside of like, all these elite circle, all these toxic circles. People who tend to politicize every other movement, people who tend to sell their ghairat over everything, and people who tend to politicize like, small differences. And that's where like, every time when we talk about Afghanistan or ghairat, babies are malnutrition, right? Babies are starving. You're taking the picture, putting it on Twitter. How about you do a food drive instead of that? How about you focus on families? You cannot reach Afghanistan your own self. Why don't you find a network? Why don't you build a network instead of like, going on Twitter and doing that? But even if somebody is doing that, people are going to go against them and talk about like, oh, this person is wrong. This person is an agent. This is a spy. And I'm like, what is happening with us? Where are our priorities? That's where we lose it. We don't have priorities. We don't care about that BB. I'm going to be honest. We don't care about that BB. All we can care is about is like who gets the first picture of helping that baby with 1 month's supply of food. That's all we care about. That's what all the activists, majority of the activist community cares about. And that's what we are. Yeah, I'm going to be honest.
See, the whole problem, what I find in this practice of trying to allegedly expose the problems and atrocities and the struggle of Afghanistan right now when it comes to people starving, right? People starving. Okay. If somebody comes for not just the solar system that we live in, but from some millions and millions of light years away, who don't know anything about our galaxy, they may not know, but the people who live on this globe, everyone should know.
Yeah.
What's happening in Afghanistan will create hunger, will create displaced people, will create suffering, okay? No need to show pictures of little children. For fuck's sake, little children. If you could do that in a so-called democratic country, first world country, you take a photo of a child without their permission, you will be stoned, you will be sued, you will be dragged into courts for this. What gives you the right to take photos of these little kids and their mothers or their fathers just so you could spread word? That doesn't make sense. For me, it maybe I'm just stupid. Yes, Shamayel John.
Well, that's when we have to look at the bigger picture, right? We can talk about exactly what Afghans are doing and why they might be doing it, but the larger thing is also the war machine that operates. We live in a world of American imperialism that's led by the US and its allies, and there's global capitalism that needs to continue happening because it fills certain people's pockets, right? So when you take a photo of a baby and show them in that state, actually what you're doing, it's happening subconsciously and you're not thinking about it directly, is it creates an undignified image of an Afghan, and it separates them from their humanity, which then makes it easier to tell war stories like, oh, Afghans are always going to continue killing themselves, or this thing and that thing. And it makes it easier to sell the whole story of Afghanistan that's been happening for, almost half a century now. It's exactly images like this. why it would be wonderful if Afghans could just see the bigger picture and stop playing to the hand that is destroying their country and has been destroying their country.
I want to add on to that, like, you know, every time everyone is like, oh, Afghanistan is not being built, everyone is destroyed, nobody is like doing anything. But here's the thing, a starving Afghanistan means, and a starving Afghan child means more money in the pockets of European Union, more money in the pockets of UN, more money in the pockets of all these Khariji gaks who will be coming to Afghanistan and working in conflict zones, right? Every that picture that gets out, that means Afghanistan is starving, it's poor, it's somehow like, you know, dehumanized. Everyone has no sense of, like, nobody knows what they're doing. I'm like, come on, do you think Afghans are so stupid that they cannot find a job? Do you think we are so stupid? How are we surviving in 21st century that half of our country doesn't even have electricity? That needs a lot of, like, you know, major employment, right? And we have that sort of capacity. But the point right now is, every starving kid that you see right now on this news cycle, it means more money for all these people, who are their careers out of Afghanistan, for all these journalists who are going to go to Afghanistan and make their career out of Afghanistan. I am so pissed at the CNN documentary that they made of this little girl getting married off onto this place. It's like, first of all, it's staged. Second of all, okay, child marriages, yes, that they happen. That's not like, oh no, it's my ghairat, Afghan ghairat, and no, this doesn't. It happens. It's so true. I'm a Kandari. It happens in my own district, so that's not a new thing for me, and it's a bad thing. And I have worked with it. I work with it, but the problem is, you are CNN, and you're the biggest media house on this planet, I guess, right? You don't know a single person who could, like, you know, actually get in touch with the that parent and give them the money or give them food. How is that so stupid? Sometimes I can't put words into this. And then like, you know, I got so furious about it, and then this journalist reached out to me. She was like, yeah, I know what you mean. It's like, I was furious, and she was like, you know, because I had fuming Afghan like, you know, dard in me. And then she goes on and she tells me, she's like, now everyone is going to find that girl, their own girl, for their own news agency where they're selling it. Do you know?
Exactly.
Afghanistan is going to become a news story where people sell their daughters, and it's going to be the news highlight for these people. This is what we are. And this is what I thought to myself. I was like, we are a tragedy that is entertaining the whole world.
Oh yeah.
That's
yeah.
Sure.
Sorry to cut you off. It even has a name. It's called trauma porn. That's what we're doing. This is literally porn of trauma. And whether the Afghans themselves are participating in it or it's staged or whatever, at the end of the day, CNN is going to air that without any kind of cultural references. They're not going to take, I studied social anthropology. They're never going to hire a social anthropologist to be like, well, this actually has been happening in Afghanistan, so it's not that crazy. Actually, your government and your taxpayers' money that's been in this country for the past 30 years has had this happening for multiple years. No one talks about the cultural aspect of it. And honestly, we can table that. But if they're going to spend so much time, just every time I saw that story, it was her face talking about it, and then it was $2,000. They sold her for $2,000 US, $2,000 US. Sell the fucking camera that you're videoing her with and give it to the family. If that's really what this is all about.
Get them in touch with people. You're CNN. How is it working with you? How come you don't know?
But that's not what it's about. Yeah, but it's never about that. It's about the tragedy of us. Right? And we're dancing monkeys ourselves. We participated in it ourselves. CNN didn't break down the doors of this family's compound. The family let them inside to film their daughter being married off to this older man. So go ahead.
All right. So let me just put some borders around this, right? Foreign people, foreign media, foreign politics, foreign governments, foreign economies put them aside. Okay? If we put them aside, this is gonna get more closer to home, right? To me, okay? To you, and to Khore, okay?
Yeah.
As you said, we live in a world dog eat dog, right? Dog eat dog, right? It's a rule of the jungle, okay? Regardless of your religion, regardless of your ethnicity, regardless of your color and your languages, you leave your door for your home open, you will be robbed, okay? Now we're talking about the same street. We're talking about the same street. We're going to talk about the same neighborhood. Forget about different cities and countries. Okay? I swear to God. Ba Khuda, ba Quran, Qassam, I don't blame these foreigners in CNN and Al Jazeera and Associated Press and blah, 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 blah. Okay, why? Because I don't care. This is the world we live in. But why my own people? Our own people are spreading these pictures only to support what they're trying to sell. They're selling it more intensely because it's coming from one another Afghan. When Afghan is crying over this, it's selling it more. Afghans are crying over this atrocity, that's why we're going to sell more. Khariji is not going to buy it if Afghans don't care, or they know about it, or they know the context, they know the history, blah, 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 but they don't give a shit. Once Afghan with 25,000 followers, 50,000, 70,000, 100,000 followers start selling this. Oh, look at this. Look at this. That's when they're going to sell. Why are our Afghans are doing this? Why? I know these kids who come from my street, who used to message me, bro, I look up to you, bro. I used to see you when I used to go to school. I was a kid and you were a rock star and we used to look up to you. What happened to you now, bro? You know who you are. I hope you listen to this. You know who you are. What happened to you? Why?
I had to laugh, I'm sorry. The bro thing.
Yeah, exactly. I was a nobody, I am a nobody, but at least I stand up with what's correct, what's right. Every day I eat myself for exactly this thing. Why wouldn't we stand up for the right thing? I don't need, I could have sold rock and roll with drugs and alcohol and strippers. I would have been a big name. We would have been a big name. My band would have been a big name. We never did that. Why are we selling suffering, our own people? Well, we can do a lot of other things which we're going to speak about. Yes. Kore, go ahead, please.
Here's the thing. When we say what, we cannot police what people share, right? That's true. We cannot police the fact that Afghanistan is suffering, child marriages are happening, poverty is there, humanitarian crises are there, women are some sort of like, in this complex circle of like, losing their ghairat. For example, like, we don't identify women as even with their own names, and I know it's going to sound so radical feminist and I'm going to get attacked for it, is the fact that every time we talk to someone, we're not like this lady, like Fatima or Amina or Pashtana or Zarmina. We're like Ahmad Small, this is like Ahmad's Khor, Ahmad's like it's like we tend to erase everything in our history. That's something that we do in between. We tend to depress our own people. We tend to like, tell them their suffering is not more, our suffering is more. We tend to police each other in between. But if a foreigner is watching and we want to get that fame, then we will highlight that story. That's where I get so jazzed up about it. I'm not sure if I'm using it correctly, but here's the thing, like Child marriage is bad thing. I have lived in Afghanistan. I have lived in Pashtun tribal region. I know this is something that has been happening all my life. The first girl that I witnessed as getting, like, the child marriage was a Pashtana in my own school. Her name was Pashtana. And my father always used to tell me, he's like, I'm going to adopt that Pashtana if you don't continue studying. And I tend to, hate the school after school because I had to go to two schools. I don't know, my parents had some obsession with schooling. So, coming to the point, here's the thing. I have witnessed it. I have lived through it. I'm not saying I was a child married something, but it was some sort of effect on me. Now, I won't highlight it in my life, but if some third Khariji Gek is looking at us, then I want to highlight it to get that fame for this thing that's happening, And I'm going to be honest, that's the same thing happened with education. When I talk about education, when we talk about solutions, it's never highlighted. I'm going to be honest, I'm going to give you some normal analytics. The reels that we put, or the highlights or the updates we put for every person who has donated a single dollar to the GoFundMe, it never gets any highlight. It never is highlighted the way it should be. But if I talk about the Taliban ban on education, then it becomes the main topic of the century. It becomes the highlight of everything. So you tell me that we criticizing, I'm not going to say Taliban are the same people or as us, they come from different regional powers. But at the same time, if we are criticizing the people in Afghanistan, then we are on a show for all these foreigners to see. But if we talk about our own progress, then it's not something important for them. That's what I'm trying to, make sense to you.
But that was beautifully said, and coincidentally set it up for what I wanted to ask you too. Shamayel John, where did you get your bachelor's and master's from? And the same thing I will ask my Hore after you.
My bachelor's in Paris, and I did my master's at what I thought was a very leftist school called School of Oriental and African Studies, but it wasn't at all. And that's a story.
So you,
and that was in London.
Okay, so you did your bachelor's in Paris and you did your master's in London.
Yeah.
Okay. Hore, where did you do your education from?
I'm still a senior at the American University. I'm 23, so I'm still graduating, but I'm studying online. I'm studying at the American University of Afghanistan, which is sometimes it's just a side note. I will take a lot of you guys' time. Here's the thing. When we talk about American University, everyone's like, oh, these girls are pro-America and everything. And I'm like, I studied there. I talked to the people there. They know what they did, what we are doing right now. They know the reality and they are okay with it. At some point they have accepted that that's how Afghanistan works, but also how Afghanistan should be functioning within from Afghanistan should be functioning from Afghans getting empowered. But then I see all these hypernated Afghans who wear all their suited booted clothes, and they go to all these conferences and they're like, this person is wrong, that person is wrong, they did this, da da da. And I'm like, you, Bicharagak, you were in Shahranau when you were taking that Shiriach. You never went out of Shahranau. You're telling me what is happening on the border region of Kandahar. So you're trying to educate me on that, and that's what you're like.
Exactly.
Oh, this is da 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 da. I'm like.
So you did. So you did your schooling in high school in Pakistan, right?
Yeah.
Okay. But you did your higher education in American University.
Kabul, yeah.
In Kabul. Okay. Let's just put this into context, which came to my attention during these cricket World 2020 series, right? Okay. Now,
let Shamayel talk.
Yes.
Very quickly, where did you university, John?
I am a man of the world. I'm a man of the world.
Okay.
I did not complete university.
Oh.
Okay, because I wasn't as smart. But I started my education in India. Okay. Then I did my high school in Pakistan in an Afghani school. Okay. And then I went to a fine arts university, computer science, in Peshawar, Pakistan, in so-called one of the most how do you say, progressive fine arts universities, as my sister would know, Iqra University.
Yeah.
Allegedly, that was very progressive.
Yeah.
So I did my so-called education in on the paper in Pakistan,
Yeah.
of course, and India, obviously. So that was the answer for Shamayel John. Now, coming to my point is that, okay, so let's just think about this. Judging and putting this government today, this ruling regime, which we cannot really ignore, ruling regime, on a pedestal, because they are educated from Pakistan.
Yeah.
We all agree.
Yeah.
Some of them are not. Some of them are highly educated from Europe and Egypt and Saudi. We all know that. Those who ignore that, that's their fault. Okay. But let's just say the foot soldiers or many of the secondary or third commanders educated in Pakistan. We have got our cricket team who, if wasn't born but raised in Pakistan, right? Majority of them, and now they're our pride. Okay. As like me, as like my Khore here, as like Shamayel John, we're all raised, educated to at some point, either outside of the borders of Afghanistan,
Yeah.
or like my Khore, she studied in American University of Kabul, which the curriculum at least, or the professors or the teachers or the administration was highly impacted by the Americans. Now, let's bring this closer. Why there has to be, I don't even care if somebody calls me Talib apologist. I don't give a shit. I could be a pig apologist. I will agree to that. I am a pig apologist. I would prefer a pig to lead my country if it's for the good of my people, right? So, but for this whole disinformation and this ridiculously imbalance of who is trained where, who is educated where, and why they're supposed to be good or bad, right? Our politicians, our leaders, good or bad, they were educated from India, from UK, from Iran, from States,
Yeah.
from Germany, right? Why do we look at our cricket team and all those politicians as good, but these people as bad because they were educated, maybe madrasa from Pakistan? Where does this comes from? Why? Is it the enmity about Pakistan, or is it because of the religion of Islam?
I personally would think, see, I studied in Pakistan, and I'm gonna be honest. My mom is from Pashtana, which is basically right now Pakistan. Although I wouldn't accept that, but here's the thing. I guess Shamayel is gonna come back. So here's the thing. When we talk about these people have. I'm gonna be honest, Limarjan. These people have actually murdered Afghans. Here's the thing.
Yeah.
A cricket team, they were educated in Pakistan, and they stood up for Afghanistan. They represent Afghanistan. They represent Afghan flag. Whereas Taliban, from which side of the institutions they come from, they're removing the identity, the culture.
Yes.
They are removing the calendar. They're removing the Afghan Milisurud. All those are part of your identity. I know, like I was talking to this person and they were like, oh, but these are all like, long-term things. In short term, we have to look how many people are fed. Yes, that's true. But then at the same time, all these people who are right now ruling, you can't just let go of like, whatever they have done in the past, and I'm not letting
No, we can't.
I'm not letting it go for the past 20 years either. We had presidents who literally had like, you know, mobs and mafia cartels that they were running in southern Afghanistan to murder people. So I don't want to hide that, and I will always highlight that. But also all these people, the Taliban, I'm gonna be honest, the right now regime, they have done some highly petty jobs that, you know, nobody would do. They have abused Afghans. In a sense, they have abused us of our future, they have abused us of our current present, and our identity. I'm going to be honest, they have abused us of that. And on what basis? On regional politics, on somebody else, on another country. So our hatred towards them is not because they from Islam perspective. No, it's not that. Our hatred towards their sort of kind, from my personal, the way I was brought up, was for the fact that they wanted to remove the identity. They wanted to remove the culture, but also at the same time that they are at war with Afghanistan. They are not fighting for Afghanistan. They are at war against Afghanistan. Like, you know, they are at war with Afghanistan, everything Afghan. And that's where it kind of makes me emotional, but also it's the sort
so you coming from living experience in Pashtana, right?
yeah.
And I believe personally that you're very, very qualified to speak about this. When we talk about the Mili Surud, the flag, let's just say maybe some cultural aspects of Afghanistan, right? In the past 50 years, we have experienced different flags for every regime. Especially during the 90s, we had freaking 5 of them. During the 80s, we had another 5 of them, right? And then when it came to Taliban, post 96 till 2001, we had different. Then it came to Karzai Khan and Ashraf Ghani Khan. And today people are raising their own flags as well. You will see it on social media. Every ethnicity and tribe, they have their own flags, right? So, but when it comes to the Afghan identity, right? Now, I believe in the past 20 years, now I'm going to repeat this again. I'm a big apologist who will do good for my people, right? I don't give a shit about Talib, Karzai, Ghani, Amin, Rabbani, Gulbuddin, or whoever, right? But when it comes to this point where everyone is choosing, now we've turned into a nation of idealism. It's not even tribalism now, it's idealism. We're choosing people. We're looking up for people. We're looking up to Mazari, Ahmad Masood, Ahmad Shah Masood, Ghani, or this and that and this and that, right? So when we talk about this, we did, in the past 20 years, we did lose, post August 15, we did lose our right of TV and dancing and music and all that shit. I understand that. That's okay. I get that. But if we look beyond that for now, if we look beyond that, not short term, but a very long term, right? Very long term. Who do I choose? Who do I look up to, right? These people are bad. There is no argument that they're not bad. No argument. I know this. I'm a Dr. Najib loyalist. I'm a very, very Dr. Najib loyalist, and I say this out loud everywhere I go. Okay, I'm a socialist, and I'm proud of that. Anyone before that, after that, I've never supported. I will never do it. And Dr. Najib, we all know how did we lose him. And there's a history to it, and there are details to that history. So we will not forgive these people. We'll never. But we know how did it happen. Who betrayed him? We know the people who sold our country in those 20 years. They betrayed him. They sold him. They give these people the opportunity to hang him. This UN hanged him. These American supported people, Taliban today, they come from the same school as the people who ruled 20 years. There's no difference among us. There's no difference among all these people. How do we judge between them? Why do we do it?
You don't judge. See, when you are saying what you just said, here's the thing. If it happened in the 90s, anyone who would came with a different flag, I would have hated them with all my heart the way I hate right now the Taliban. I'm going to be honest with you. You said that, yes, we need stability. Yes, we do need stability. Yes, I'm away from the conflict, so I have the privilege to, like, you know, prioritize my identity over starvation. I'm going to be honest, and it's a privilege. But here's the thing, right? People there right now are starving. They're going through humanitarian crisis. They don't care. And I'm going to be honest, I was in Kandahar, I was in Kabul, I was in hospitals where these Taliban were, and nobody cared who they were, who was ruling, who was in ARC, as long as they get fed what the flag was, to be honest. But in a national sense, why do we lose our identity to our regional powers? Why should I lose my national flag to people and like, you know, who are surrounding me, and that if I take their name, they're gonna probably kill me. So here's the thing. Why do I lose my identity to them? Why is my women so like, you know, limited in social limits? Because of them. It's all because of them, right? If they didn't empower all these people, and I'm not going to say just, oh, only Iran and Pakistan. No, every person who was involved in that. In 80s, when they started with these books where Alif for Allah, Jim for Jihad was started, you know, I will never say, I can't send my Afghan soul for all that. Nobody, how much visas I get or how much green cards I get, I can't do that to my people, right? And that's where we have to draw the line. I'm going to be honest with you. But why do I have to change my identity, my culture, my sense of belonging, just because somebody in the region doesn't feel like it's not up to their standard, or it's not down to their standard, you know? It's just that I'm not their fifth.
Whoa. Yes. Okay. So when we talk about the standards, right? We have women talking, protesting for their rights, right? We have women protesting for the rights, and you prolifically protesting for the women education, right?
Yeah.
Let's just say, for this conversation's sake, imaginary world, women are given the right to education,
yeah,
right, and working conditions.
Yeah.
Then what do we argue about after that?
Nothing.
Minorities.
See, with minorities,
right?
That you have to be accepted about. I'm sorry, I have to cut you off. Something that they have to, right? With minorities, they have to be like, you know, even all the stats, because they're part of the citizenship. They're part of that.
Yep. Yeah. I think we just lost you a little bit there.
Yeah, I got called, so.
Sorry about that. Yeah, please.
No, I'm fine. So go on. I understand what you mean. I understand. You're like, okay, this. Then what? Will you still hate?
Then what? Yeah.
Because there were people in the past who murdered people, and you still accepted them as rulers. Why don't you accept them?
Of course.
See, I know what you mean, and I have said this many times on camera and on record. Many people have that. Okay, if these things are done, then people would let go of it. People are done with war, done with poverty, done with starvation. They don't care about a Twitter space of 250 people talking about, oh, who is resisting what way, or oh, what flag are we raising, or oh, there are crises and Geneva should act. Nobody cares.
Humanitarian industry. Remember that humanitarian industry. Yeah, right.
They don't care who is representing them. They don't care if it's Pashtana or Shamayel or Lemar or Mr. Who feels like, you know, they should be talking about Afghan politics. Ones in Afghanistan don't care. The point right now is all these things have to be made. All these concessions have to be made. It's not concession, it's a right, but for them it's sort of a concession. Then we move past that. Then I'll forgive the people I have in my family, in my tribe. and then I'll move on. But it's not like, you'll also come into my house, you'll take, it's like in Pashto we say, like you also want God, but you also want the date with it.
That's right. Yep. Yep.
You took my people, now at least let my girls study, let my women work.
Exactly. Exactly. Shamal John, when coming past the point of the right of women education, now minorities, right? Giving the rights to minorities as same as any other Afghan, let's just say ethnicity. What else after that?
Well, I just want to steer away from using the word minority because there hasn't been proof that there is a certain group of people that are the majority of Afghanistan and who are the minority. You can call them minoritized. I think that's a little bit more accurate. But I think
how do we know about these statistics?
Because any censuses that were taken were not done properly.
Yeah.
I have seen a map. I have seen a map which shows the whole map shows that Afghanistan was 70% our Hazara brothers and sisters, and the rest were the rest. Is that the same stats?
Okay, hold on one second. I just said that none of the censuses were ever accurate. So for 1 minute, because it all ties together.
Do we? How do we say we have 35 million Afghans and we don't know what's majority ethnicity and what's not?
Well, because first of all, there are parts of Afghanistan that are so remote that you can't even be sure of that 35 million, and that's kind of actually known. There is guesstimates with certain parts of the country. Second, people don't necessarily, most people do, but don't necessarily know where they're from and who they are. Yes. Especially when you have the history that we have. There are plenty of people who have a grandmother from a minoritized group, not something that's known openly because
Afghanistan, Afghanistan is very well known for, at least as far as I've known, is you're known by your father's tribe. Okay. You follow your, so.
Can we just take 1 second so I can finish the thought? If we're doing it that way, okay, then how do we count, right? How do we count? Because someone can have their fathers, for example, I'm mixed and I don't necessarily feel more attached to one ethnic group than the other, but I wouldn't describe myself only as the ethnic group of my father, but that's personally me. So if I was to give a census, what would I do? I would divide myself and put in one entry for every ethnic group that I'm in. But leave that aside. I don't want to talk about these details. What I wanted to say is that you can give all the rights you want to people on paper, which is something that has been done to a certain extent. But until people accept it themselves, it's not going to do shit, right? So when you give people the rights, you give minoritized groups of people their rights, you have to heal what's wrong within the entire society that allowed them to become minoritized people. There should not be one Afghan who is self-identifying as Muslim in hopefully 20 years, let's say, that looks at a Sikh Afghan and thinks lower of them. Until we don't heal that, doesn't matter how many rights you give on paper. It really doesn't.
I just want to add that to Shamayel, and I'm sure I'm gonna get attacked for this. I'm saying this a lot, I don't know why, but I'm pretty much sure. See, when Shamayel says that Afghanistan doesn't, like, nobody knows what the majority one ethnic group is. I have met people whose father tribe is Pashtun, right? Say that because I'm a Pashtun, Landibani Pashtun, so I can say it. And they're like they don't identify what the Pashtun part of their identity. They think that they are more Shamali. And I just met this guy and because here's the thing. what they identify with themselves with, they're going to call themselves that, right? And that's acceptable and should be acceptable. That's the first thing. The second thing is there is a sense of, and I kid you not, there is a sense of entitlement that Pashtuns have.
A sense of it. I know. Yes, a sense of it. Yes.
We take pride in Kandarian all the time, and I'm going to be honest, this is so true. Kandarian takes so much pride in it, and like, oh, we ruled Afghanistan for so many long, and we did it. And I'm like, yeah, you ruined it too, so good for you. You have to talk about reality. People talk about Kandaris and all that, but they don't talk about the fact that there was a genocide in Kandar about Hazaras. Nobody talks about that. That's the first step towards where you talk about. I met this Sikh girl in my university, and she's an Afghan Sikh, and her parents fled in 70s, and she was like, I used to identify myself as an Indian because I was like, how do I relate to Afghan culture? Because we haven't left that much space for them to identify themselves as Afghan Sikh on international platforms or in international countries. That's how they feel. That's how much they feel left out. So in Pashto we say that they are not even of the outside, not the inside. Why do they feel that? Why do they feel that borderline identity crisis with their own country, with their own ancestry? Why do we have this sense of entitlement that we have put in ourselves, that every other minority, majority, whatever religious ethnic group that they identify with, have that borderline issue with it? That's something we need to accept and talk about it and heal through it and grieve about it. We have murdered and we continue to murder each other, but we don't talk about it, we don't grieve about it, we don't take a moment to accept that, okay, yes, my ancestors were wrong. Yes, you're
yeah.
She says yeah, and then she's gone. She just said yeah, and she's gone. She that fast.
Her internet, it's because VPN, so yeah.
خوره ولا دغه صدر دی چې جوړوي ماشاءالله ډیره خوږه ده، ډیره خوږه ښکاري، دومره افغان ښکاري. ځوانده اوسه.
Anna it's like more of like Anna, because my father used to tell me, she says, ma Anna, so I'm like, I'm always wearing it like her.
نه خوره نه، ته خو 100% افغانه یې، 100% افغانه یې. Alhamdulillah. Let's just wait for this Shamayel Jan. She was just raising hand, and now she's
cheeky.
All right. Because I have to hear her talk to move on with this. I don't know what happened to her, but yeah, this is a sort
stupid fucking internet.
Okay.
So I don't know what has happened in the couple of 20 seconds that I've missed, but I just have to say, I have met people who have bribed government officials to change the ethnicity on their identity card. So we have a problem. That's it. There's young people who are lying.
We have a problem with that individual who did that.
But individuals
the problem starts from there.
In a cave with no one around them. They hated themselves because they learned to hate themselves through society.
Where do we start? Now let's just talk about that individual and the impact of that ideology, right? Let's just talk about that in that individual and the impact. Yeah, speak about that.
I just think I've said this on many lives when me and I do the diaspora passing, because I think it's important for all Afghans. At some point, I had to do this in Kabul, and it was so fucking uncomfortable. As a 15-year-old, wanted to learn the history of the country, feel more closer to my identity. I realized that it's not a walk in the park, and being Afghan it comes with bad as well as good. And until a person, an Afghan, wherever they're from, doesn't accept the bad with the good, they're never going to have a deep enough identity, first of all, to get to a point with themselves to be 100% Afghan, but to do anything of service to the country. You know, like I love Afghanistan with its stupid ass faults, and there's so many of them. You know,
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
unconditional love,
Of
and that's
course.
what you need to have to actually be of any kind of service. So, and I think that applies to multiple conversations we've had today. I missed a little bit of that indoctrination question, and I feel like that was a good one. Did you guys get somewhere with that? What
So go
was
for
the
it.
question?
You can add. The question was, what's the difference? What is the difference? How do we draw the line between the indoctrination of one individual than the other? What's the difference between the Afghan cricket team who was raised in Pakistan, me and my khore here who educated in Pakistan, and Taliban who were educated in Pakistan, or the doctors and the ministers and the governors and Ashraf Ghani and Karzai who was educated, or our intelligence officers, intelligence chief, now who's the representative of the former government, Amrullah Saleh Khan, who was educated in States and the UK under the intelligence of those people. And then we have another people who were actually educated there as well, and we see them wrong or right. Why? Why am I right? Why am I a good person? Talib is not. Why is Amrullah Saleh a good person and some other dude is not? We're both indoctrinated in the same.
Obviously, it has to do with how much attention you can get on Twitter. Because if it's the cricket team, they're fine. But if it's the Taliban, they're not fine. Because honestly, I went to the international school in Kabul. I should be treated a certain type of way at first. You know, I don't mind that. Give me a job first,
because you are, yeah.
Myself.
Yeah.
Why not? You have to do that with everyone, I think. And that's not even necessarily it's to see where someone's coming from. And we've done so much of this in history, you know, like Taliban saying Babra Karmal, oh, he's dying in the hospital of his paymasters and shit like that. Like we've been taking someone's education and blowing it out of proportion so often. Why don't we keep doing half of these cricket players? About this, but half of these cricket players wouldn't even fucking play cricket if they weren't raised in Pakistan. Like, wake the fuck up, you know?
Here's the fun thing. And I don't know if I should be seeing this on a live, but I think I'm safe, so I can. So here's the fun thing. I was raised in Pakistan. I was educated in Pakistan. I went to Afghanistan. I worked in Afghanistan. The way I talked, I was put on the intelligence list of Pakistan. So when I was going through Pakistan to come to the US, people came to my hotel room. They investigated me for 5 hours. They went through my every interview and they were like, you talk a lot. You do this and that, right? And this is what their intelligence services did. And you won't believe our activist gags in the West who are sitting in Mexico, who are doing Twitter speeches, and I know you guys know now.
Khana.
Yes.
Khana. Yeah. Hashtag sanction.
He has the
Pakistan, yeah.
He has the audacity to go to an international journalist, tell her that I am a Pakistani agent, or I am, I don't remember the correct word, but it's like, you know, you shouldn't give her a FaceTime or like shouldn't give her screen time because she was raised in Pakistan and she went to Pakistan to go to US. So that's like something in my head. I talked about Afghanistan. I get on the ISI list. I get interviewed. I get bullied, harassed for being me, for being Afghan, for talking. And I'm sure they're following this. And hi, guys, for that. But Mr. Activist Gak in Mexico thinks that I'm a Pakistani agent. So if I was a Pakistani agent, why would I be like, you know, stalled for months to get my student to go on my student visa, not even asylum case or P1 or P2 or that sort of thing. I was not someone who worked with military or something like that. I was a normal student, right? Why did I have to go through so much? Here's the thing, they go after people like me, people like who have used their education for good, but also know the realities, the political landscape, and wouldn't run after everything that they can see is like, you know, that they could blame. That's what they are doing right now. They wouldn't blame Hamla Mohib, they won't blame Fazli, but they will blame Pashtana. They will use that my education, my background in Pakistan against me. That's what people do right now. That's what they have been that they have grown up to do. So forget Taliban. They won't even let normal people who talk about Afghanistan say anything. That's how reality is in Afghanistan right now, and we can't run.
Jorge,
it's all our own.
Jorge, some of these activists probably were speaking about the same individual who takes really good selfies for sure. That beautiful beard and that nice long hair.
Yeah.
Yeah, medium length hair. Looks very, very attractive. Even a Magaya would say, very attractive, bro. Good on you. But when you post something on your Twitter saying that the Pakistani or American or whatever military or intelligence agency has requested Twitter to do blah, 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 it doesn't show your power, it shows their power because they can control you.
Yeah.
You retard, stupid individual. They control you because they have the power to reach those big powers who can actually ban you. This shows their power. I'm sorry to say, but a puppy dog can bark as much as they want. A puppy dog can bark as much as they want, but when the powers come to grab them and take them away, it shows their power, not the puppy dogs.
Yeah.
So you are wasting your efforts, my friend, my brother. You're wasting it.
I think it's also important to see, like, when people like this make comments or movements or whatever they're doing, who is their audience, right? I wrote about this on Instagram the other day. I don't see that many activist gags, which I love this word. I'm going to start using it all the time now. Thank you, Pashtana. I don't see many of them speaking directly to their people. They speak to others. And then they become completely transparent to me, whether or not I was indoctrinated into a French mentality or into an international school mentality or whatever the fuck. I at least can see you're being beghairat by doing that because you're not talking to your people, and you never were. And if you were talking to your people, that would show that you actually gave a damn.
And
exactly. Yes.
Here's the thing. When you're talking to Afghan young diaspora in America, right? All these young students, young kids, their parents had to work 2 jobs. They were first generation Afghans who were making a living in the West, and they didn't have the time to teach their children the actual history of Afghanistan or the politics of Afghanistan or how the identity intersects with the way we are today, right? So these young children, they are looking for some way to get educated, to absorb their roots, to become the Afghans that they want to be, to relate to their own culture, you know, in a sense. And these Bicharagan, they go on Twitter, they go on Instagram, they watch our lives out, like me, Mad, you, and Khanak. And then what happens is this kid infiltrates sort of a hatred towards countries that they never visited, that they never saw, that they never, like, I'm not saying Pakistan is good. Oh God, no. Getting bullied, getting harassed for just talking for 5 hours is not easy thing. Going through your phone, checking everyone's number, that's not an easy thing, and it traumatizes you. But if you're educating young children who want to relate to their country, and if you want to spew all the hatred in their brains, it's gonna make another generation of people who will be in ARC and who will have the same mentality. When there were people in Earth, when I came to Afghanistan, the first thing that they used to say that she's an ISI agent. The way she talks, her accent, everything about her is ISI agent thing, right? And that traumatized me for years, you know, because I was working for my own people and I was disabled by it. And I'm not the first person. A lot of people who came from Pashtuna face that. A lot of people face that. And because he came from the same, but he was sitting with the elite, he was drinking with the elite, he was somehow acceptable and I was not, because I was not drinking with them.
Bore,
yeah.
I will share this very personal experience, which I hope it gives a bit more about me. Where do I come from, right? And who my teacher is. My father studied Afghanistan Arbi Shwanzai military academy from 7th grade. 7th grade as a child, right? In the regime of Dawood Khan, right? And this person was slapped in Turkham and Hayatabad checkpoint twice in one day by Pakistani police. Okay.
Yeah.
If anyone thinks I support Pakistan, if anyone thinks support I was after Pakistan, then I'm a haramzada. because a son will not forget his father, a proud Afghan nationalist.
Yeah, getting
was
slapped.
youngest in his family, and his father took an oath from him that you should be the last son of mine in Kabul who would take my janazah on his shoulder. And he lived with that. Right? And another story of him, only not because he's my father, but he's a very small example out of so many nationalists of Afghanistan. So many. He's just a tiny bit, very small, tiny bit of it. He worked in this government back in 2010. 2010, the government of UK and Germany offered him scholarships for this military academy, right? Harkan Arbi. We say Harkan Harbi, which is the highest qualification you could go and get in the army in any country in the world, right? What he did, he was now he's a master. He's a master of the fighter aircraft design and structure, right? He has his masters. What he did, he took it and he gave it to another young person, a young officer, right? Who was promoted during this time, who wasn't even a kid when he was graduated as an officer, right? He gave it to him. He said, son, you are a colonel right now. You are young. You can do way more to my country than I can do comparing to our age and the position you're working right now, right? And his position was because he knew people, right? He went to UK, he studied, he left his family there. The family still lives there, citizens, you know. Then he came back. He became one of the deputies of the Ministry of Defense.
Yeah.
Okay. Now listen to this. My father's family, I was still in Kabul. My father was working as a lieutenant colonel in a position of a major still. A position of major, but he was a lieutenant colonel. Listen to this, okay? That guy came. 10 years later, my father's depressed, frustrated. He's losing his mind over his country. He's gone crazy. He's mad, okay? He doesn't eat. He doesn't sleep. And then this guy comes forward, 2-star general, this very young guy, right? 2-star general, comes to him and says, what Agarwal said, Walida se kehte. My dad is still a colonel, right? And he's 2-star general today. And he said, why are you doing this? Why are you so depressed? Why are you not eating? You don't come to the dinners and the lunches of the officers, blah, blah. And he says, my friend, look at the country, what's happening to it. Look at my people.
Yeah.
People are dying out of hunger in Kabul. People are dying out of all these suicide attacks in Kabul. People are dying of starvation, illiteracy, and everything. What's happened? How can I eat And this guy tells him this. This is the moral of the story. Why do you care?
Yeah.
What Agarwal said. Sakete. Warza. Go to your job. Do your job. Sign your name. Go out. Meet your friends. Come have lunch. Go home and sleep. This is not going to go well. This is my problem. This is my issue right here. This is 20 years that all these Twitter spaces, all these big platforms are still fighting for these people. I will prefer this Talib over those people any day, even though I hate them. Even though my father is a prolific, my uncles are prolific artists on TV. And I would prefer these people, illiterate people, over these 20 years people. Why? Because we can fight corruption with these people. When you lose corruption, you can find anything. Corruption comes from selfishness. Corruption comes from feeding yourself. Corruption comes from $1 million of mansions in Turkey, in Dubai, in Iran, in America. People driving fucking Bentleys today in UK, and my people, 35 billion people, are sitting for the UNICEF funds.
Yeah.
And people are promoting that shit. Why?
Shamayel, do you have anything to add? I know you had a lot to talk about, but now you're gone.
I'm just listening to all of this. You know, it brings up a lot of emotions, especially when you come from nationalist families. You know, I come from that lineage too, and it's just in our people is, I think, one of our greatest challenges, because people aren't speaking about how the fact that, yeah, it's been happening for 20 years, but it's also been happening for longer than that. You know, under the monarchy, life wasn't beautiful for people who weren't in the Kabul elite. So it's generations.
Yeah.
Zahir Shah, Baba Millat was giving the title to him in 2002 or 3, right?
Yeah.
2002 or
for what?
For what?
No, exactly.
What did he do? For what did he do? But then exactly when this new regime came upon and they wanted to adapt his principles, people were like, oh, look at these people, why are they doing that? Well, for the past freaking 15 years, you called him Baba Millat, and now he's bad. Yeah. These people are not good. I have been on the front lines, Hore. I'm very qualified to talk about the Afghan army. My father, my uncles, my uncle has served during the time when they used to pick up these dead bodies of their friends from the army, who was input IEDs inside them back when Ashrar, these mujahids, used to put them inside their dead bodies so their friends could come, rescue them, and they would blow up. Can I forget that? No. Can I forget Taliban sniper killing my friend when I ate breakfast with him in Balamurghab? No. Do I forget that Chechens and Uzbekistanis used to come and fight in Badghis? No, I don't. I can never forgive that. But when I hear people, so-called exiles, kids from my street, little kids from my streets, now social media superstars, talk about, oh, the Mujahids did atrocities, but they apologize and we forgive them. Who the fuck are you to forgive them?
Forget those things. That's my...
Nobody. We don't have the right.
Yeah.
I just want to add the fact when Shamayel said that we come from nationalists. I come from like a family that gave young sons in Afghan army in these past 20 years. My whole distant relatives, the relatives that I'm I know of, majority of them lost a son, lost a brother, lost a family member to that. Every other house that I go to has a widow, has orphans, right? And that's on the Afghan side. On the Pashtunkhwa side, mother side, is basically where these people lost their family members. Why? Because they stood with Afghanistan. They stood with the fact that whatever was happening in Afghanistan was wrong. So on both sides, you go through that trauma. When you said your father was slapped, my father was dragged from our house. I was 11 when they came inside our house, and that's Pakistani intelligences, and they dragged him out, and they took him, and he was gone for 6 days. And that's where all this hatred started getting out, and that's where you get that, right? But I am not going to put my whole nation on a pedestal for what happened.
Exactly.
Do that. Yes, I still feel so bad that my father, who's no more, was dragged by them so disrespectfully out of his own room, and he was a leader, he was a chief of his tribe, and they did that to him. And they came into my room without any permission. But I can't do that to my people. I can't put my people on pedestal for my own ego. I can't do that. And that's where it hits me, that we give all these sacrifices, and someone in Mexico who didn't have to go through anything is making my decisions on my behalf, is talking about my aid, is talking about my life, is talking about Afghanistan, how it should be, because he's getting the fame for it. That's what hits me a lot.
Tens of them. Let's talk about this very recent Twitter space. A couple of them are my friends, and I love them. But brainwashing and the systematic propaganda is very strong. Using your traumas, using your own grudges is very strong. It's very strong, right? Talking about all these independent aid workers. Now, Hore and Shamayel John, tell me something. If I'm that stupid, right? If I'm that stupid, AIDS, I understand, like Asil, beautifully done, right? EDPs, IDPs, they've done help, and they are doing it. Durrani, which you are a part of, doing beautiful work. Asil is actually working in Kandor as well, no doubt, beautifully done. But we cannot feed 35 million Afghans with apps and charities and funds, right? We cannot. It's impossible. It's impractical, right? Now you have got $400+ million, 400+ million euros assigned for teachers from UNICEF, right? And for the IDPs and all this starvation and people in hunger, blah, 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 right? Okay. While our own country's funds and the money is being frozen. Okay. Now you're literally taking somebody's money away and giving them charity because you want them to be beggars forever. Okay? For me, it doesn't make sense. Love it or hate it, this is the government we have right now. Love it or hate it. 20 years, Karzai and Ghani 8, Dostum and Ata 8, okay? Kazemi and blah, 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 blah. They ate all this money from the president to a Mamur in Sharwale. They ate this money, trillions of dollars. Give some more to Talib and see what they do.
I think they will eat too. I'm going to be honest.
Hore.
Here's what I think.
Hore.
Because okay. when you said that your father was a 2-star general and this...
No, he never made it to 2-star. He never made it. He would never make it.
So when you said that your father was on this position, but this other guy who goes and becomes this person and comes again, fame is a bad thing. Fame is a bad thing. If you get used
to... And so is hunger.
Fame is a bad thing and money is a bad thing. If you get used to all those things at the same time, you want to continue with that. I personally thought that in the 90s and in this, like, I used to meet all these big general people and my father's family, and I used to think to myself, these are experienced people. Why are they in such lower positions, and why are they retired? Why are they not, like, doing something and doing something and doing something? How are they so selfish and stuff? Now I think to myself, they understood that when they are common, they can do more, they can be more impactful, rather than the fact when they become famous and they're short-lived, and they become, like, they become hungry for more and more and more. Asil is doing amazing job. What they do is amazing. Durham, they are doing an amazing job. Whatever they do, it's something that brings you together. It gives you sense of sisterhood. The same goes for all these different NGOs. But at the end of the day, personal goal for me is, when somebody asks me, and I'm sure Shamayel has the same goal, or anyone, or Mina, who is also part of it.
Of course.
I wish there is a day where there's no need for learn, where there's no need for Asil fund.
Inshallah.
Yeah, there's no need for, like, Durham, where women have to come in and find this confiding space to talk to each other. I wish there are spaces for us opened. But until that, these are our best shots. These are our best shots. That's what I'm trying to say. And with Taliban, I'm 110% sure. Money, power in Afghanistan is a bad thing. They will become the same people that we have or had in the past. It's just because there's no mechanical base.
We also don't really, we have a very fertile foundation for power getting really corrupted and taking over money. I mean, we don't have a middle class. We have basically poverty and the elite. And when you have situations like that, the intense classism that we have and the feudal lordism that we have, it makes it very simple. I mean, there's people strangely accepting the age-old land owning things and etc. and feudalism and blah 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 blah. But I do want to take a moment to just say, this is when we have to look at the entire system that this whole thing is founded on, right? Even if so much money was taken away from the mouths of Afghans by other Afghans, the whole system that it's operating off of, which is underneath global capitalism, will always take multiple, $10 that was supposedly taken from the taxpayers of the US and sent to Afghanistan. Only 3 made it to the Afghan people. When you have a system like that that's broken from the top to the bottom, I don't give a fuck whether there's a Karzai in the middle of it, or a Ghani in the middle of it, or a Dostum in the middle of it. It's completely corrupted, the whole system. You need to throw the system out. Hopefully one day we will live in a world includes food, a roof over their head, education, and access to healthcare. And that's why I don't understand why it's so difficult, especially for Afghans. I understand that there's trauma. I understand that a lot of the diaspora refugees and things like that are kind of wanking themselves off with some kind of a capitalist fantasy that they've created in their head. And they're actually from the elite classes that helped destroy the country. And they've now taken on this role of, well, were treated so badly. Yeah, but why did you run to the West? You ran to the West because you were part of a class that got taken completely, were slaughtered and told to get the fuck out. So if you're not going to recognize that that's in your lineage and that's part of your blood, you have that blood on your hands that runs intergenerationally. Leave that all aside. I don't understand when a country like ours can't just fucking accept socialism. We just have to allow this to happen one day, so that, because our country needs it. Our country needs it. We have sorry to cut you off. We have, the country is farmers.
No.
Most of the country is farmers. Yesterday I did a radio talk show where I was asked about climate change in Afghanistan. We already know that the global south is affected by climate change much worse than first world countries and whatever. But at the same time, it's not just worse affected because there isn't infrastructure to support global climate change and there's no one that they're stepping on top of to continue surviving, but it's because we're an agrarian nation. So climate change is going to affect us and literally drive us to starvation at some point because most of our people rely on the stuff that they actually farm, you know? That's my rant about socialism. Go ahead, Pashtana.
When you say socialism, here's the thing. Afghanistan, one thing you will always see, we will give up on everything, but we are like, we pray 5 times a day. That's something that, at least in Dari families, and I have seen in majority of Afghan families, they love. That's their sense of like, getting that peace. For them, socialism is attached to,
but
you have to accept that. We have to accept that.
If we can't accept,
I know what you mean. Go on.
Sorry, it's the same reason why the Taliban exists. The Taliban was only trained and funded and brainwashed and created because everyone in the West was like, how do we take down communism? Stupid Muslims will teach stupid Muslims that Islam is actually the exact opposite of socialism. And guess what? Every Muslim, instead of opening a Quran and being like, we're not supposed to have interest on money when we loan. That sounds really socialistic and not at all capitalist. Instead of any Muslim getting up and saying that, everyone just ran around saying, yes, that is something kafir. How is it kafir? And I know that you're not saying that. You're not saying that. I just had it every time someone brings it up.
No. Here's the thing. Half of Afghans, majority, 95% of Afghans, I can give you that estimate right here. Majority of Afghans who would open an Arabic Quran Sharif don't even know how to read Arabic. Don't even know what that Arabic word means. Here's the problem. It all comes back to education. It all comes to Jihad for Jihad. Again, Jihad for Jihad was in Pashto, Jihad for Jihad was in Dari, so it was acceptable to us. We were able to learn it easily, faster. We were not able to learn this open Quran and learn it. I don't know if you guys have seen this, but in my family, all these old ladies who are Pashtun, sometimes when they're saying Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, they tend to skip the words, a few words, because they have never learned it from actual teacher. They have learned it from their mothers who have learned it from their mothers, and they tend to have this Pashto accent with it or some Pashto word with it, and they forget the actual meaning of the surah and they just bring in their own words, which is not their fault because they were not educated about it. But then the whole problem is when you say healthcare and everything and social, it could be a good model, but then the whole problem is it's already staged kufr and it won't be accepted as an acceptable way of it. And that's what with Afghanistan, everything has to be black and white. American bad, Taliban bad, Mujahideen bad. I'm good because I'm nationalist, bro. That's... Go ahead.
That's where educated people, young people, educated people like yourself and Shamayel John comes in. Okay, that's a very good point. That's a very authentic fact, and that's our duty, our responsibility.
Yeah.
Especially like programs like Learn, that people like yourself and Shamayel John and all those people involved can educate people. But for the time being, how do we actually put a structure in order to start working on this, right? If there's no structure, first of all, we cannot start working on anything, right? Now, again, talking about communism or socialism or Talib or Democrat, all these matters put aside, at the moment what we're facing, right, what we have is, why couldn't we accept there is a government? There are problems, yes, let's pressure on them, let's pressure on these people, let's pressure on them, let's put pressure, because we have their money, right? We have the money. Now if we talk about all these funds which are going above the present regime's head, like UNICEF and UN, they're their own independent entity, right? They can provide aids and whatnot to people while going over the head of the government, right? How long? How long do you think this actually was sustainable? No country ever with the UN funds and charities could actually control those funds. If there was warlordism, if there was ethnic wars, if there was a civil war, they all took control of these funds, and all those powerful people were taking the control. So this is never going to go anywhere. You are giving the money either way, by material or by cash or by digital to these people who are in power. You cannot fight that. If you fight that, there would be another conflict. UN will provide United Nations security forces to secure their funds and charities. We have seen this in the history. That's how the protocol goes. You have another foreign military boots on the ground, and the Talib will not accept that. There would be another war. So if you're giving hundreds of millions of charity to the government, but thinking that you're going above their head, no, you're not. This is just your game to some stupid brainwashed people who you think they don't know history. But the people who have actually read, they know you cannot do that. That's undeniable. So why don't you give them the money? Why don't you put Afghan people, literate people, senior people, and young people, and a shoe polisher, and a guy with a piercing on his lip like me, make a committee who would be a bridge between the money from the World Bank and the government today.
But then how would they know?
Why not to...
Yes. I want Shamayel to talk so badly that I'm just going to cut myself short. How would they know that the medium hair length guy and you are different? That's the first problem that we have right now in Afghanistan. Every Afghan that Westerners have seen up until this day, including UN, we all are nice. We all say the same things. But at the end of the day, we steal from our own people. That's the first thing. We do it all the time. I'm not saying Shamayel or you have done it, but majority of Afghans do it. That's the first thing. The second thing is, why are the UN paying $17,000 to someone white who's coming with this, but not paying me $17,000 so that I don't have the urge to steal in the... That's the first thing. The second thing that we have to focus on is the fact that, okay, you can go over their head and do all the things you want, but the Taliban, I have one thing that's hypocritic, is the fact that they had the funds to fight a war for 20 years, but they don't have the funds to work on their own.
Bravo, yeah.
That's where your
head
pinned. And the last one. The third thing is, I am 110% sure now, if foreign boots are on the soil of Afghanistan, they don't have that power. They don't have that money to fight. Now they will accept anything. They will accept anything because leaders are not choosers. That's what happened. Now, if
one simple thing that I forgot to say earlier, and you mentioned it beautifully. How could the Taliban fight for 20 years?
Yeah. How?
If they didn't have the fund, right? Yeah. They still have that fund. They can fight for 50 more years.
Yes.
They can fight for 100 more years. You know why? Do you know why? First of all, they can provide that funds, like monetary funds.
Yeah.
Using even the most simplest thing that we all know is opium. Yeah. They can use that. It's easy. But that's the easy explanation, right? But what about ideology? For 100 years, they will fight with ideology and they will eat bread and water. So we cannot argue, we cannot argue, because none of these people have used 4X armored Land Cruisers of the year, which cost $120,000. None of them have used, right? All these people in the past 20 years, they were using Hummers and Humvees and Land Cruisers and Chevrolets and Cadillacs and These people never did that. So for us to think how did they sustain themselves, they will sustain 150 years with that, with nothing.
That's the hour of need. That's the hour of need.
Exactly.
You become this person, but then how do you prioritize
Exactly.
people over
You cannot.
people?
You cannot do that. Of course.
That's my issue. When
Of course. Of course, they cannot sustain Afghanistan. That's very, very simple way to say it. They cannot sustain the nation because they don't have the money. Now just imagine the cabinet of Karzai or Ghani or even Najib or Amin or Shah, right? All that coming in with their own pocket money and saying, okay, we can spend for my assistant and my soldiers, but we don't have anything else. Every government will fail like that. Every government will fail. You need to have your own government stand on their feet regardless. You need to have your national machine going. You know, how long are you going to feed the teachers with UNICEF? Oh, what about, okay, we're going to just talk about the teacher. What about the farmers?
Topic. We can go about it in a very deep topic where I talk about sustainability and standing on your own feet. But the problem right now is, and we have to accept it, current, past, until we can go up until Amanullah Khan, and I am not going to shy away from the fact that even Amanullah Khan was living.
Don't even talk about him. Yeah.
Yeah. Was hoping to live on handouts, and that's what we have been the past whole 1 century. We can all be ghairati about it and accept it and move on with it. We can find solutions for it, but we've been living on handouts for centuries, and the country has to sustain herself. Maybe because the whole world wants us to be that handout nation, retainer nation.
Yes. Yes.
Maybe because we are too bighairata to get our own self, to feed our own
self.
Two of those things.
Shamayel John, what do you have to say? I think we just went on for like 2 hours.
No,
yeah.
So at the very end, give us something.
My internet's being weird.
Something.
I missed the last what you guys.
Yeah,
were
your
saying.
internet is always weird.
No, and I'm using my mobile.
Oh, we said a lot of things.
We said we were like,
No, I think the conversation.
Can you hear us now?
No,
I'm not sure.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
So we want you to conversation with it. We wanted you to talk about the way Afghanistan is sustained, how it should, what are your thoughts on?
What is the solution for today? Immediate solution.
Yeah.
Immediate solution.
I think the
what is it?
I think the conversation of sustainability is much larger. Creating an infrastructure. How are you gonna see? The thing is we've had this conversation. Me and the Matt have had this conversation. I don't know. I don't trust the superpowers of the world. Never have, never will. I don't know money to watch the Taliban either fuck it up or not fuck it up, be corrupt, not be corrupt. Most likely they will be corrupt. How are we going to do that if there are countries that have the biggest news cycles about one of the nastiest countries to have ever been, and sat with them face. What they're doing behind the scenes? No, I don't know, because at the end of the day, for every corrupt Afghan who has sold out their people, there's 10 white men in fucking suits with a plan that they've had in place. So I don't know, and I don't know if any of that was heard by anyone because my internet's being so weird.
None. Heard you. Jorge,
Yes.
your last input for tonight. What do you say?
My last input would be this simple: stop brainwashing young Afghan diaspora into the fact that you have to hate on this and that. Instead, put that energy into your own people. Use that a younger Afghan diaspora energy into using that back home, finding solutions for problems like clean drinking water, illiteracy, poverty. Finding solution for all those things, instead of for talking about doing the blame game. Stop doing that. It's not going to take us anywhere. We have to focus on ourselves. We have to start empowering our own communities. You don't have to go on and rescue the whole country. Just start with your own family, your own relatives. That's it. That's all we need right now.
Bravo, bravo. If you allow me, I've got a couple of questions here. I'll open it and we can at least maybe answer like 3 of them if you want. Yeah?
Shamayel is like,
No? Yeah? No?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
Hear me? I can't tell.
I don't need to be. Oh. No, Shamaljan, we can hear you. I'm just gonna open up these questions that we have received, and we're gonna just talk about probably 2 or 3 of them very quickly, briefly. So we have got first one: these photographers, journalists need to be held accountable. Well, that we all agree with that, I'm sure. All right.
Quickly, I just want to say this because it's been happening for longer than that. You know, like the first era of. I don't know if you remember Aisha, who was on the cover of Time magazine in, I think I want to say 2010. Oh, yeah. I wrote about that in university and I got in so much trouble because I went to school in the West. And it was, this woman had been, her face was mutilated. She didn't have a nose. And she was put on the cover of Time magazine. How did she get photographed by Time magazine? Because the West had brought her to the West that that photographer, that journalist, ended up winning every fucking award for photojournalism that year. For what reason? And what was the tagline that was next to it? Ooh, it's still at the zoo to me. That's still to this day. What happens if we leave Afghanistan? What happens if we leave Afghanistan? Women's noses will be cut off. And we're put like fucking porn on these people's magazine aisles. You know, this has been happening for years and years. And that woman, I know of her. I've never met her face to face, but she was completely surrounded by all of these activist gacks at all of the drinking spots in Kabul. And she was completely well in one of these bars and say, how dare you do that to one of my women, put her all over the world as a cause in your war narrative. That's it. That's all I have to say.
Exactly. Bravo. We've got some clappings. We've got we love you, Pashtana John. Who cares what anyone says? Of course. Thank you, Pashtana John and Shamal John. Wonderful points made. Thank you very much. Of course. Yes. Could you please let Shamal finish? I think she must have done. Shamal John. Okay, that's your friend, Shamal.
Nice.
No one's bad for viewers. Thank you. Let's also. We can hear her normally. Okay, cool. So yeah, there were just praises and thanks, and that was the question. So thank you very much, my Jorge, Pashtana John. There is your Anana Jorge. There, Manana.
So much.
That you actually woke up this early for us and you shared your wisdom with us. Shamal John, thank you very much that you stayed up this late sharing your wisdom with us.
Thank you.
It's midnight. It's midnight for me. It's midnight for me, and I have to work 4 in the morning, so doesn't really matter for me. But what I would love to say is that I'm lucky. I'm lucky that I get to have these moments, these hours to spend and talk about my people and country. Let's just not forget, my brothers and sisters, for the God's sake, that you believe in or not. There are 40 million Afghans in Afghanistan are going to become beggars. Let's just think about that for a moment. You hate the Taliban. I hate the Taliban. We all hate the Taliban. There are millions of people, there are millions of nationalist Afghan, daragashon khune Afghan است, who hate the Mujahid, the Ashrar. They've been so traumatized that they cannot even speak today anymore. They're disabled in wheelchairs today. We are become a slave of these countries today. We are working for these countries who have been funding these wars in our nation on our people. Let's not forget.
Yeah.
Let's not give opportunity to the people to bring the same story back and back again on the newspaper and the magazines and the news channels, to use us for a smoke screen to do whatever they want.
Yeah.
If you actually support the hungry people, do not show their pictures, do not show their photos, do not use to fuel what the international media will make money on. Instead, work and assist and help them. We were never a country of beggars. We were a country of champions and legends. We're not going to end up as 35 million people of beggars. I refuse to do that. We all should refuse to do that. How can you see and how can you sit and sip on your coffee in the morning and your smoothie in the evening and doing your yoga, thinking about that 35 million people in Afghanistan are turning into beggars? Because there's a name of UNICEF on it, so they're not beggars. They're standing in lines, hundreds of people yesterday, hundreds of people standing in the line for wheat. I know USA wheat. I'm sure my Khore here has seen those bags of wheat from USAID. Yeah. It's not worth even eating. Are we going to give them that? Are we happy with that? Because we went over the head of Taliban because they're radical Muslims, or they're against these Dostum and Atta and Karzai and this and that, or because they're not allowing us to dance and music. If they're going to feed my people, fuck my music. If they're going to build a country, just like that young guy who was this security commander of Kabul who went and ran behind that ISK suicide bomber who died. How many of our generals did that? How many of the past 20 years of security commanders of a whole province did that? This guy did that. Why did he do that? Why did he not sit in his office? Why did he not just drive one of those leftover armored Land Cruisers? Why not? Why did he find the need to go there himself and run behind a freaking suicide bomber? Let's just for a moment think about this. What is ideology? What's nationalism? You cannot kill these people. They're there to prove something. They're there to live for something and die for something. If they're dying for something, your Twitter spaces will not kill them, will not defeat them. If you want the American government to go again with the drones and bomb our people, then forget about it. Then you're not Afghan. Yeah. You need to be standing out there calling for the funds to be unfrozen and let it, instead of 100 million of UNICEF funds, which half of it, more than half of it, the white people will take it as administration fee, just give the government the money. Let 50% of the Taliban take it and 50% go to the people. Eventually it will go. Do not create another conflict because of your own traumas and grudges. Karzai didn't do anything. Ashraf Ghani didn't do anything. Amanullah Khan, Zahir Shah didn't do anything. None of them did. Amin didn't do anything. Taraki didn't do anything. Mazari didn't do anything. He just cut women's nipples. That's it.
Oh God. We have a lot of things we have to.
So if this government is on, they're on. Give them the money that hundreds of others took. Give them a little bit of it, not trillions. They're millions. Give them that. Let's see what they do. But stand up. Put people forward. Put those who are educated, who are qualified, who are eligible. Make a committee between the governments, the World Bank or whatever that is, and the regime. Make these guidelines. Make a board and control it. If you don't believe them, control the money. It's easy. We have people like Pashtana John, Shamayel, and so many other people, so many other young people and senior people. Use them. Make a shura. It's not the first thing, but give them a chance. Give them a chance. They haven't really robbed anyone yet. They have killed people. So did the people who ran for 20 years. They killed and robbed.
Yeah.
So I give them 1 point for this. They haven't robbed people yet. Let's see if they rob.
But we have to wait on that. I just want to be very pragmatic of all these things. I'm going to be honest.
We will have to be very, 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 I should say, rational, and we have to be very precise about it, because we have people like yourself. They can use their influence, they can use their connection, who can make all these shuras, all these boards and councils and committees to have accountability. If you have accountability, let's just test it. Why not? If we don't test it, we are losing people.
We are losing people. I just want to end the whole topic with this one thing, is the fact that yes, we are losing people, we'll continue to lose people, and there's no way to just accept it and move past it and just say, okay, yes, another country should invade us in order to protect like my rights, my drinking or writing or like dancing rights. I know what you mean on that, but for a fact that at the same time, how many of these people will actually the girls go back to school, the women get back to work. I also have to be very pragmatic about that. How many of these shuras will be accepted? So yes, we can stand, but we also have to be very rational, pragmatic, and at the same time, make sure that our voices are heard, but also who are we approaching? Who are we giving give us that power?
Of course. And that starts from really right now. Forget about all these Twitter spaces with all these charities, which we don't even know, but except Asil, who's doing a good job, we all know. Durrani, who's doing a good job, we all know. For the moment, it's very good, but thinking about future, no, this is not gonna sustain the whole nation. We have people who hadn't even seen a car driving past their village in 50 years. They didn't even know what car is. How can you reach these people? You have to use the government. The government is called government for a reason. They're everywhere. You cannot deny them.
Yeah.
If you deny them, you will fight against them. If you want to fight against them, that's a whole different concept. You want to fight against them? Let's talk about that. Let's talk about that. You want to fight? Then let's talk. Who's going to fight against them? All those billionaires who are driving Bentleys? No, they will not. No, they will never do that. Bravo.
Like
Thank you very much. Yes.
Thank you.
Shamayel wants to say something? Anything at the end? Anything more at the end? At the end of the end? Anything more?
To the very brainwashed and problematic diaspora, to the everyday person that wants on, which I have to do this. If everyone could just remember that they are Afghan and aware their identity every day, not just when it makes for a nice little post, not just when you can make money off of it. If they could wear their identity every single individual, but it's part of the collective, maybe we can start tackling some of these problems immediately.
Bravo, 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 bravo. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Jorge.
Thank you, everyone.
Pashtana John, for taking the time. Thank you very much, Shamayel John, with your beautiful scarf and your beautiful smile. Thank you very much for honoring us, you two. God bless. خدام رایتان باشه. Watan ya kafan, Watan ya kafan. Exactly. That's the whole motto. That's always been the motto for all of us. Watan ya kafan. That's it.
Thank you. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you, Shamayel, for being so up so late. So thank you. Thank you. Take care. Bye bye.
Thank you very much. Love you. Bye bye.